One of the very few good things about 2020 has been the jokes people have told about the apocalypse and how 2020 couldn't get worse, followed by a prediction of how 2020 would in fact get worse, usually with comical predictions about Martians landing, the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man, or Cthulhu taking a city apart, or some other such nonsense. But then when legitimately weird stories make their way into the news, people tend to get a little nervous. So for this installment of End Times Watch, I have one of these stories. And it comes straight from the heart of Utah, a land with its own odd history and mysteries, some of which are only talked about in whispers. But here's a hint. This story, as it turns out, is nothing for people to worry about. This story involves a bizarre object that brings to mind Martians or flying saucers or the like. Headline from CBS News. Mysterious monolith discovered in Utah desert. Wikipedia defines monolith as the following. A monolith is a geological feature consisting of a single massive stone or rock, such as some mountains, or a single large piece of rock placed as, or within, a monument or building. Erosion usually exposes the geological formations, which are often made of very hard and solid igneous or metamorphic rock. Okay, that's not entirely accurate either. A monolith can also be something that is purely of artificial construct, designed as a pillar or something similar, and that's what they found in Utah. To the CBS News story we go. Quote, a public safety crew flying over southeastern Utah found an unusual monolith in a remote area of the state. The sleek metal structure embedded in the ground is at least 10 feet tall, and no one seems to know how it got there. The Utah Department of Public Safety, DPS, said Monday that Aero Bureau and wildlife resource officers were conducting a count of bighorn sheep last week in Red Rock Country when they spotted the object and landed nearby to investigate further. Videos and photos released by DPS show the crew exploring the metal monolith. At one point, one DPS officer climbed onto another's shoulders, slightly reaching over the top of the structure. DPS said that there was no obvious indication of who put it there, leaving its origins a mystery for now. Brett Hutchings, a DPS helicopter pilot, told KSLTV that the unexplained 10 to 12 foot high structure is the strangest thing that I've come across out there in all my years of flying. However, he had some theories of what it could be. I'm assuming it's some new wave artist or something. Or, somebody that was a big 2001 A Space Odyssey fan, Hutchings said. End quote. In the film 2001 A Space Odyssey, the monoliths are machines left by Martians that have mysterious effects. In the film, creatures find it in prehistoric times and, as the story implies, triggered human evolution. It is, like most science fiction films of the time, a vehicle for evolution. Take that for what you will. The fascinating thing about this monolith is that no one knows how it got into the middle of the Utah desert. It's, close to 12 feet tall and made of metal. That means it's heavy, very heavy. Even if it wasn't a single piece but assembled on site, it's still very heavy. There are no tire tracks, indicating some kind of off-road capable semi-truck and crane set it up, so no sign of disturbance from helicopters flying overhead. Nothing, as the official who spoke to CBS said they have no indication of who put it there. It's fascinating, but the story gets better. The Guardian, yes, I know, The Guardian, reports more on this story. They may have a lead on who made this thing. Quote, the work was compared to those of many minimalist sculptors, including artist John Mccracken, who died in 2011. A spokesperson for his gallerist, David Zwerner, told The Guardian the mystery object was not one of his works and said they suspect it is a work by a fellow artist paying homage to Mccracken. Zwerner, however, told the New York Times in a later statement that it could actually be a Mccracken. The gallery is divided on this, Zwerner said. I believe this is definitely by John. Who would have known that 2020 had yet another surprise for us, just when we thought we had seen it all? Let's go see it. End quote. I decided to have a look at the art of John Mccracken. I'd never really heard of him before this. He's described as an abstract artist. What I see when I did a simple Google image search, I found what you see on the screen now. The man made pillars and monoliths for the most part. They were all just much smaller. Zwerner says he thinks this is a piece of his work, which it may be. But Mccracken died in 2011, which leaves people wondering. Back to the Guardian piece. Quote, in zoomed-in photos of the structure, Reddit users noted that there were lines by its base which suggested a rock saw had been used to put it in the ground, and that it appeared to be held together with screws, dispelling the theory it could be one large hunk of metal. The structure also caused debate in the geography world, which took issue with Utah's government using the word monolith to describe the object. A monolith is technically a geographic feature made of stone, while this slab appears to be made of metal. Merriam-Webster's dictionary, however, allows for a looser interpretation of monolith as a massive structure, and it is the word used to describe the structure director Stanley Kubrick made famous in 2001: A Space Odyssey. End quote. The state of Utah has no plans to release its location. Now, that having been said, I'd normally go and check primary sources, but in this case, that requires going onto Reddit. I haven't been on that site for years, and for good reason. It's not my favorite place on the internet, to put it mildly. The state of Utah may not be planning on releasing its location, but people are already hunting through Google Maps and Google Earth to figure it out, because of course they are. Quoting an article from The Verge, quote, "But while the monolith remains an irresistible mystery, its location has turned into a lesson on how to find almost anything online, including an enigmatic metal sculpture. Within hours, someone had inevitably opened a Reddit forum to locate the monolith, and less than a day after the sculpture's existence was revealed, someone seems to have actually done it." End quote. And bravo to the author of this piece, because they go on to say that they won't go and publish the location of the monolith because it's actually very remote and in a place that the typical person should probably not go trekking in. Utah officials didn't respond to their request for comment either, and honestly, that's fine. I'm going to mostly quote The Verge again, but I'm going to omit the name of the Redditor because, well, one, he's a Redditor, and two, because I don't want anyone to get any bright ideas about going to look for it. Quote, "That said, the monolith hunting process is impressive in its own right, and the evidence for its location put forward by not naming him is strong. He pinpointed the coordinates of a small redstone canyon with a narrow gap that closely matches the social media photos. Satellite images from Google Earth reveal something in the middle, a hard-to-see object that casts a sharp, tall, and narrow shadow across the ground. The object seems relatively new. Google Earth photos from 2013 and mid-2015 show no trace of it, but it's clearly visible by October of 2016, when the surrounding ground has also been apparently cleared of scrub. App developer Bruno Philippe posted Apple Maps imagery of the canyon, but the monolith area was shrouded in shadow. He found the canyon with some clever cross-referencing, a process he says he's honed with the online game GeoGuessr, where players deduce the locations of random Google Street View pictures. I started to realize I had a talent for finding places just based on the geography. All that paired with an abundance of curiosity about the world led me to spend a lot of time on Google Earth, he told The Verge over Reddit chat." End quote. Note the dates. Mccracken passed away in 2011. In 2015, the object wasn't appearing on Google Maps, but in 2016 it was. Either the object wasn't made by him, or it was, but it wasn't installed until he'd been gone for 5 years. There are some indications that it has screws and evidence of drilling to insert it into the ground, meaning it probably wasn't Martians with flying saucers putting it into the ground. Someone took a lot of effort to install, well, what looks to me like an idol of some kind in the middle of the Utah desert. So is this a sign of the end? Probably not. It's funny that it shows up in 2020 when everyone is almost instinctively looking for those signs, but in reality, it has been there now for 4 years. Technology made it possible for the story of this object to get out after a chance flyby by essentially park rangers. It's an interesting story, but it's probably not a sign of the end. So if you know people who are speculating and saying some possibly strange things, show them this video, because I put all the pieces together for you. What do you think about this? Personally, I kind of wonder what it must be like to have so much money that you can dump it on a weird art project that no one will see for years. And when people finally do find out about it, they do at the funniest possible time to do so. And they react in such a way that has great potential for comedy. But that's about as far as it goes for me. I thought this was a fun story that had made its way to the headlines, and I wanted to help people keep from reacting the wrong way to this one. That's kind of what I try to do with the End Times Watch videos, either let you know about a story that is really eyebrow-lifting, sort of, as you might guess, from the headlines, or things that are being misrepresented, and I think this is one of them. Anyway, thanks for listening. I'm Anthony Stine. Ave Maria.